My perfect brother used me as his personal stress toy until I snapped. Then he played the victim in front of our parents. So I let him destroy me until he crossed the line and exposed himself to everyone. It worked. But now years later he's back, and I think I know what he wants. My older brother used to lock me in the basement when his friends came over. One time I tried to come upstairs for dinner, and he shoved me so hard I fell down the concrete steps. His reasoning was that I embarrassed the family with my weird, quiet personality. And when I turned 13, I started getting sick of it. It all started when I accidentally wore his favorite hoodie to school. He cornered me in the garage after basketball practice and twisted my arm behind my back until I heard it pop. But I was ready this time. I grabbed a wrench from Dad's workbench and swung it at his knee, except my little act of revenge didn't feel as good as I thought it would. In fact, it made me feel worse. So much so that I started crying for being such a terrible brother and let him twist my other arm even harder. And don't get me wrong, I loved my parents, but I know they saw my bruises, the fingerprint marks on my wrists. I know they could hear me crying in my room after his attacks, but they never did anything because in their eyes, he was the star athlete who kept our family's reputation spotless in our small town community. Plus, when we were at school, he had the protective big brother role down to perfection. He'd ruffle my hair walking through the hallways and introduce me as his little bro to his teammates. It was sickening, but one good thing did come out of it: my survival instincts. You see, I channeled all that fear into academics and staying invisible. So by 15, not only was I valedictorian material, but I could disappear from any situation before things got violent. He was a senior at this point grade above me, and I was constantly hearing about his college recruitment. At this point, he had stopped beating me as much, mostly because college scouts were always around our house. All I wanted was to have a normal relationship with him. So when his girlfriend Emma broke up with him right before prom, I knew I had to help somehow. Emma and my brother had been together for 2 years. My brother spent the whole morning after the breakup punching holes in his bedroom wall. I spent the entire day trying to fix it. Called Emma's best friend, got the real reason for the breakup. Emma had seen my brother flirting with another girl at a party. By 6 p.m., I'd convinced Emma to meet my brother at our favorite coffee shop to talk things through. I even lied and said he'd been crying about losing her. The reunion was incredible. They talked for 3 hours and got back together. She even agreed to go to prom with him after all. For the first time in my life, I felt like we were actual siblings. He thanked me with tears in his eyes and said I was the best brother in the world. Or so I thought. Because as it turns out, Emma only got back together with him to make her ex-boyfriend jealous. She dumped him again the night before prom. My brother didn't talk to me for a week. Then when our parents went to their anniversary dinner, I heard his footsteps coming toward my room. "Can we talk?" he asked through my door. I opened it, and he immediately grabbed me by the throat and slammed me against the wall. "You knew Emma was using me. You set me up to be humiliated. You've always been jealous that I'm the favorite, and now you're trying to ruin my senior year." He was holding his metal baseball bat, the one he'd used to win state championships. Before I could even process what was happening, he swung it at my ribs. "You ruined my relationship." I ducked instinctively and rolled toward my closet. There was a sickening crack followed by the most horrifying scream I'd ever heard. He'd swung so hard that when he missed me, the bat hit my metal bed frame, and the vibration shattered his wrist, the same wrist he needed for baseball. He collapsed on my floor, clutching his arm. I could see the bone poking through his skin. I called 911 immediately, my hands shaking. He ended up needing surgery and metal plates. The injury ended his baseball career permanently. When my parents got to the hospital and asked what happened, I just said check his phone. Years of texts to his teammates bragging about keeping me in line. Photos of my bruises he'd sent to group chats with laughing emojis calling me his personal punching bag. My dad's face went ghost white. My mom started sobbing. They separated us at the hospital while the doctors worked on my brother's shattered wrist. I sat in a different room for hours, answering the same questions over and over. A social worker named Patricia took detailed notes about every incident I could remember. The police showed up around midnight. 2 officers, both looking exhausted, asked me to walk them through everything that happened that night. I showed them the texts on my phone. Screenshots I'd been saving since I was 10, just in case anyone ever asked why I had so many unexplained injuries. The female officer's expression darkened as she read through them. She kept scrolling, her jaw getting tighter with each message thread she discovered. My parents arrived at the police station around 3 a.m. Mom's makeup was streaked down her face. Dad kept pacing the waiting room, looking lost. They wouldn't make eye contact with me. The detective assigned to our case was named Rodriguez. He had a calm voice, but asked difficult questions. He wanted to know about every beating I could remember, every threat, every time my parents saw what happened and chose to ignore it. I told him about the basement incidents, about the arm twisting, about how my brother would smile at family dinners while kicking me under the table. Rodriguez wrote everything down in a thick file. Child Protective Services got involved the next morning, exactly like they're supposed to when abuse gets reported. A social worker named Marcus came to interview us at home. He was older than I expected, maybe 50s, with gray hair and kind eyes. My brother came home after 3 days in the hospital. His wrist was in a cast that went up to his elbow. He couldn't move his fingers without wincing. The doctor said he'd need months of physical therapy. His baseball scholarship to State University was officially gone. His future plans completely destroyed. He moved into our guest room. Mom took time off work to drive him to medical appointments. I could hear them talking softly through the walls. Sometimes my brother would cry. Not his usual angry tears, but deep, painful sobs about his ruined athletic career and lost scholarship opportunities. Marcus visited twice a week. He'd talk to each of us separately, then together as a family. My parents had to attend mandatory counseling sessions. The court court ordered family therapy. They went every Tuesday and Thursday, coming home with red eyes and tight expressions every single time. School became awkward. Word spread about what happened, though the details were confused. Some kids thought I'd attacked my brother, others heard he'd hurt himself. Emma actually approached me in the hallway one day looking uncomfortable. She'd heard about the baseball injury and the lost scholarship through mutual friends. "I'm sorry," she mumbled. "I never meant for any of this to happen. I just wanted to make Jake jealous. I didn't think it would cause all this drama." I just nodded. What else could I say? That her teenage relationship games had triggered the worst night of my life, that my brother was permanently disabled because of revenge. Basketball tryouts became my escape. Even though I wasn't athletic like my brother, I made JV through pure determination and countless hours of practice. Coach Martinez pulled me aside after my first practice, asked if I needed any accommodations or support given my family situation that everyone was talking about. I told him I just needed to play. He understood and let me stay late shooting free throws until the janitor kicked us out of the gym. My brother started physical therapy 6 weeks after the incident. The injury had damaged nerves in his hand. He couldn't grip things properly anymore. I drove him to appointments because our parents were at work. We'd sit in complete silence during the 30-minute drive to the clinic. One day he finally spoke up. "I know you hate me." I gripped the steering wheel tighter, focusing on the road ahead of us. "I don't hate you," I replied simply. "You should," he said. His voice was flat and emotionless. "I've been horrible to you for years." I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to agree to list every terrible thing he'd done, but seeing him struggle with simple tasks quieted that anger. Rodriguez called a family meeting 8 weeks after the incident. He brought another detective, a woman named Chen, who specialized in domestic violence cases. They sat us down in our living room and laid out their findings. Years of documented abuse, medical records that corroborated my stories, witness statements from teachers. "We need to discuss long-term consequences," Rodriguez said. "Criminal charges are being considered. This pattern of behavior is serious and can't be ignored." My brother had to complete anger management classes, court-ordered like our parents' counseling. He went every Monday evening carrying his workbook in his good hand. The investigation revealed more than anyone expected. Rodriguez had interviewed my brother's teammates. Several admitted they'd been uncomfortable with his stories about me. One kid, Mason, had even saved screenshots of particularly cruel messages, planning to tell a coach but never following through because he didn't want to get involved. My parents had to face uncomfortable truths. The social workers didn't sugarcoat anything. They'd failed to protect me and enabled my brother's violent behavior. Dad broke down during one session, admitted he'd always known something was wrong but didn't want to believe his star athlete son could be abusive. 4 months passed. My brother's cast came off, revealing a hand that looked normal but functioned poorly. He couldn't make a proper fist anymore. His dreams of college baseball were officially over. He'd applied to community college instead, using his academic record rather than athletic achievements. We ate dinner together every night now, another court requirement. Marcus or Chen would sometimes join us, observing our family interactions. The conversations were careful and stilted. We talked about safe topics like weather and TV shows, never about baseball or the future he'd lost. One evening during dinner, my brother dropped his water glass. The crash made everyone jump. He tried to pick up the pieces, but his damaged hand wouldn't cooperate. I got up to help, but he waved me off with his good hand. "I've got it," he said, but his voice cracked as he struggled with the broken glass. He managed to clean it up, but when he straightened up, tears were streaming down his face. The simple task had been a painful reminder of everything he'd lost. "Don't." Mom reached for him, but my brother pulled away. "Just don't," he said, and left the table, his dinner untouched. Marcus made notes in his ever-present folder. He always documented these moments of family tension for his reports to the court. The next morning, I found my brother in the kitchen at 5 a.m. He was trying to make coffee, but couldn't operate the machine properly with his injured hand. "Let me help," I offered. He stepped aside without arguing. That's when I noticed fresh bruises on his good arm, dark purple marks that looked recent. "What happened to your arm?" I asked. He pulled his sleeve down quickly. "Nothing, just clumsy. The pain medication makes me unsteady." But I recognized those marks. They looked exactly like the grip bruises he used to leave on me. Someone had grabbed him hard enough to leave fingerprints. At school that day, I saw his former teammate Derek cornering him by the lockers. Derek was gesturing aggressively, getting in my brother's face about something. My brother just stood there taking it. The guy who used to dominate every social situation now couldn't even defend himself against his former friends. I walked over. "Everything okay here?" I asked. Derek turned on me with a sneer. "Oh, look, the victim's here to save his psycho brother." "We're leaving," I said, guiding my brother away from the confrontation. His former teammates had turned on him completely since the news of his arrest spread through school. In the car after school, he finally broke down completely. "They all hate me," he sobbed. "Every single person thinks I'm a monster, and they're not wrong. Derek grabbed me yesterday, said I deserved worse than a broken wrist, said he wished you'd fought back harder and done more damage to me." I didn't know how to respond. Part of me understood their anger. My brother had hurt me for years, and now people knew the truth about his character. But seeing him broken and afraid made my chest tight with unexpected sympathy. The brother who'd terrorized me was now being terrorized by others. Rodriguez scheduled an emergency meeting that week. He'd gotten reports from the school about escalating harassment and wanted to address the situation immediately. My brother sat hunched in his chair, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. The confident athlete was gone, replaced by someone fragile and afraid. "We need to discuss alternative schooling options," Rodriguez said. "The current environment isn't safe for anyone involved in this case." My parents exchanged worried looks. Mom spoke first. "We can't afford private school with all the medical bills and legal fees we're facing. There are Or online programs, Rodriguez suggested. Or we could look into transferring him to Westside High across town, where he wouldn't know anyone. My brother shook his head slowly. I have 2 months left until graduation. I can handle it, but he couldn't handle it. The next week, someone spray-painted abuser across his locker in red paint. The janitor cleaned it off, but you could still see the ghost letters. He started eating lunch in the guidance counselor's office. I tried to help where I could, walked him to classes when our schedules aligned. My basketball teammates didn't understand my choice to support him. Why are you protecting him, Sam asked during practice. After everything he did to you? I missed my next shot. He's still my brother, I said simply. He's getting exactly what he deserves, Jake added. Maybe he'll learn something. Coach Martinez overheard and made the whole team run suicides. We don't kick people when they're down, he said. That's not what champions do. But the damage to our family was spreading in other ways. Our parents started fighting more often. I'd hear them in their bedroom at night. Mom blamed Dad for ignoring the warning signs. Dad blamed Mom for babying my brother. Both blamed themselves for failing both of their sons. One night, I heard shouting from their room followed by a door slamming. Dad slept on the couch for the next week until they worked things out. Marcus increased his visits to 3 times weekly. The court was concerned about our family stability and considering extending the supervision period indefinitely. My parents had to submit weekly reports about our progress. The pressure was affecting everyone's mental health and our family dynamics. My brother's physical therapy wasn't going well. The therapist said he was developing compensation patterns that could cause long-term problems if not corrected. He needed to do exercises at home, but he'd given up trying. I started going to his room after dinner, making him work through the painful stretches. He'd resist at first, complaining that it hurt too much, but eventually he'd give in and let me count repetitions while he struggled through each movement. Remember when we used to build forts, he asked one night during stretches, before I became such a monster, before I ruined everything between us. I did remember. We'd been close when we were really young, before middle school sports changed everything, before he decided I was an embarrassment to the family name. What happened, I asked. When did you start hating me so much? He was quiet for a long moment, working through a particularly painful stretch. I never hated you, he finally said. I hated that you were smarter than me, more genuine. People actually liked you for who you were, not what you could do. They only respected me because I was good at baseball, because I was strong and aggressive. I thought that's all I had to offer anyone. The admission hung between us. I helped him with the final stretch, watching his face contort with pain as the damaged nerves fired incorrectly. 3 weeks before graduation, everything fell apart completely. My brother had been doing better keeping his head down, just trying to survive until the end. Then someone posted all the screenshots online. Every message he'd ever sent about me over the years. Photos of my bruises, everything. The post went viral in our school community within hours. Parents started calling for his expulsion. The principal had to hold an emergency assembly about cyberbullying. It didn't matter that he was already facing consequences. The damage was done and everyone wanted their pound of flesh from him. My brother didn't come home that night. My parents called the police at 11 p.m. I drove around looking for him, checking all our old childhood haunts. I found his car at the old water tower outside town. He was sitting on the hood staring up at the stars. The drop wasn't fatal, but it would hurt. Don't, I said, approaching slowly. I wasn't going to jump, he replied without looking at me. I was just thinking about how different things could have been. We sat there for an hour not talking, just existing in the space between what was and what might have been if he'd made different choices. I'm sorry, he finally said, for everything. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know I'm genuinely sorry for hurting you. I know, I said, and I did. The apology didn't erase the years of fear and pain, but it was a start towards something resembling forgiveness. We drove home separately. Our parents were waiting with 2 police officers. There were procedures for missing persons, even ones who came back safely. Rodriguez arranged for my brother to finish school online. The principal agreed it was best for everyone's safety and the school's reputation. He'd get his diploma but wouldn't walk at graduation. Another consequence of that night with the baseball bat that changed everything. The house felt different with him home all day, quieter despite his presence. He spent most time in his room working on assignments. I'd check on him between my own classes and basketball practice. Sometimes he'd be doing physical therapy exercises, other times staring at his useless hand. Our parents' marriage survived but barely. They'd started couples counseling on top of everything else. Some nights Dad still slept on the couch. Rodriguez pulled me aside during one visit. How are you handling all this, he asked. I'm fine, I said automatically. It's okay if you're not, he said gently. You've been through significant trauma. Your feelings about your brother's consequences are valid too. But I didn't know how to explain the guilt sitting in my stomach. If I hadn't ducked that night, none of this would have happened. My brother would be playing college baseball. My parents would still be proud. Our family wouldn't be under constant court supervision. The rational part knew it wasn't my fault. He'd swung a metal bat at my head. Ducking was instinct, but rationality doesn't erase guilt. Basketball season ended with us making it to state semifinals. I played my best game, scoring 23 points, but afterward I just felt empty. I kept thinking about my brother at home alone while everyone else celebrated. The boy who'd terrorized me had become someone I worried about. Coach Martinez found me in the locker room after the celebration. You've got a lot on your shoulders, he said, but you can't carry everyone's burden. He was right, but it didn't make watching my brother suffer any easier. The irony wasn't lost on me at all. Graduation day arrived with unexpected thunderstorms. I put on my cap and gown, trying to feel excited about the milestone I'd earned. My parents came together sitting in the front row. My brother stayed home watching the live stream. As I walked across the stage, I thought about him. Part of me wanted to skip the after parties and go home. But Rodriguez had been clear. I needed to maintain my own life and achievements. So I went to the party, tried to act normal. But when someone made a joke about Psycho Brothers, I left early. Found myself driving home still in my graduation gown. My brother was in the backyard trying to plant vegetables in Mom's garden. The physical therapist had suggested gardening for his hand mobility. He looked up when he heard the gate. Shouldn't you be celebrating? He asked. Felt like gardening, I said, grabbing a trowel. We worked in silence, planting tomatoes and peppers. The rain had stopped and everything smelled fresh. By the time we finished, we were both muddy and exhausted. Thanks, he said simply. That night, our whole family ate dinner together without supervision. Dad had gotten promoted at work. Mom had started painting again. We sat at our usual spots, the empty chair where Marcus usually sat, somehow meaningful. I got into state, I announced. Full academic scholarship. I'd been holding the news for weeks, waiting for the right moment. My parents smiled genuinely for the first time in months. Even my brother looked pleased, though something flickered behind his eyes. That's incredible, he said. You deserve it. You always were the smart one. After dinner, he knocked on my door asking if we could talk. I let him in. He sat on my bed, picking at the comforter. Do you think we'll ever be normal again, he asked. Our family, I mean. I thought about lying, giving him false hope. But we'd moved past pretty lies months ago. I don't know, I said honestly. But maybe we can be something different. Maybe better. He nodded, understanding. We'd never have the relationship we could have had. Too much damage, too much history, but perhaps we could build something new from the wreckage of what we'd destroyed. Rodriguez visited one last time the following week. The official supervision period was ending. We'd completed all court requirements successfully. You've all made significant progress, he said. But the real work starts now. Without court oversight, without mandatory counseling. My brother starts community college in the fall. I'm leaving for state in August. Our parents are staying together and working on their marriage. The scars are still there, physical and emotional. My brother's hand will never work properly. I still flinch when people raise their voices. But we're trying. All of us. Trying to be better than we were. Trying to build something healthy from the ashes of our dysfunction. It's not a happy ending. It's not really an ending at all. Just a beginning of something different. Something harder, but maybe more honest.